Good evening and a very warm welcome to this wonderful event on Deutschland 83. My name is Ingrid Hobbis and I manage the partnerships with German institutions, including the DAAD Research Hub for German Studies here at the University of Cambridge. This evening's event has been organized by our DAAD Hub and the Grimme Institute, and I would like to thank Marquardt Herzog of the Schwanenakademie in Ilse for introducing us to the Grimme Institute and the team behind the Grimme Award. This award is one of the most prestigious German television awards and is often described as the German TV Oscar. We are absolutely delighted to have been given the opportunity to explore the world of German and British TV awards together with our colleagues at the Grimme Institute. This evening's event forms the first part in a series of events we have planned, which include a lecture and a conference here in Cambridge next year. It's been a great pleasure to organize this evening's event together with our friends in Germany, Lucia Eskers, Director of the Grimme Award, and Dr. Tanja Weber from the University of Cologne. And we're very much looking forward to continuing with this project, which provides a platform for the discussion of European awards for media. Deutschland 83 is a 2015 German television series starring Jonas Ney as a native of East Germany, who in 1983 is sent to West Germany as an undercover spy for the Foreign Intelligence Agency of the Stasi. This thriller, set at the height of the Cold War, drew us all in from the first episode with its fast-paced action, unforgettable characters, and, let's be honest, one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard for any TV series. Created by Anna Winger and Jörg Winger, directed by BAFTA Award winner Edward Berger, and with a star-studded cast, including Jonas Ney, who is with us this evening, the series was a huge hit internationally and especially in the UK. It received a number of international and domestic awards, including, of course, a Grimme Award, and very much re-established German TV production internationally. Deutschland 83 can also be found on countless lists of best spy series to watch, and I'm quite sure that for many, it was part of the at-home entertainment during the most challenging months of the pandemic. Needless to say, we are thrilled about this evening's event and the lineup of fantastic speakers, which in addition to the team behind Deutschland 83 include Grimme Award Jury member Dr. Heike Huppertz and historian Dr. Hanno Bautz. I will shortly hand over to Steffen Grimberg, who will be hosting our event, but before that, we're very happy to have this opportunity to explain a little bit more about the DAAD Hub in the following short film. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to feeling really quite starstruck. I hope you enjoy our event.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ingrid, for this wonderful introduction and this very interesting a little clip about the DAAD hub at Cambridge. You mentioned already we've got very fantastic guests this afternoon, and I just want very briefly to introduce them a little bit more to our audience. We are thrilled to have Jörg here, Jörg Winger. He is the creator and showrunner of Deutschland 83, and its sequels with Anna, who is his wife and also the producer of this series. He's also familiar with British television. He worked for 2 episodes of The Bill some years back because he's involved in a German crime series called Soko Leipzig, which partnered with The Bill. Very interesting, very exciting stuff. We might have the time to talk about this a little bit later. And among many awards he received, there was the Grimme Award in 2016, obviously for Deutschland 83, but he's just quite recently in 2018 had another Grimme Award for Hackerville, which is a movie about cybercrime, or a series about cybercrime. So glad to have you here, Jörg. Welcome. And we have Edward Berger, who is director and producer, and he directed most of the first series of Deutschland 83. And he works extensively for film and television in Germany, but not only in Germany. In 2018, he did the miniseries Patrick Melrose, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, which is obviously based on the Edward St. Albin books, which aired with Sky Atlantic in the UK, and which earned him a BAFTA in 2019. So welcome, Edward.
Hello.
The young gentleman you mentioned and referred to, who plays Martin Rauch, the main character in Deutschland 83, is of course Jonas Ney. He's a very popular German actor. We're very glad to have him here before his in front of his cozy fire. Jonas has been involved in acting from child age. He's been having he had his first leading role at the age of 14, and has been well, the main character in all 3 theories of the Deutschland series here. And in fact, in the last, he makes the Berlin Wall come down in a way. And Ingrid mentioned the great soundtrack of Deutschland 83. Perhaps we should also mention that Jonas is also a renowned film composer. So great you made it today and are with us. Heike Huppertz, who's been also mentioned, is a film and television critic. I know Heike from experience when I was part of the Grimme Award jury. She works extensively and writes about the media, mainly for Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. And she is not only a member of the Grimme Award jury, but tons of other film juries. So we are very experienced and very critical person here, and she was in fact in the jury which awarded the Grimme Award to Deutschland 83 in 2016. So welcome, Heike. But before we start our little panel discussion, I would like to introduce Hanno Balz, who is in Cambridge. He's a fellow of Trinity Hall and is a DAAD lecturer in modern German and European history. He received his PhD from Bremen University, so he is German, and he's been an assistant professor at the Department of History at Johns Hopkins University, which we all very well know now from different research projects, until 2018. He's an expert on the Red Army Fraction, the German terrorist group, leftist terrorist group, and is at the moment working on the origins of anti-communism in Germany, which leads us directly back to the Cold War, which all of a sudden became rather heated in 1983. And I'd like with Hanno to just shed a little light on the real historical background of Deutschland 83. Able Archer 83, the NATO exercise in autumn, that was a real thing. And so Hanno, briefly tell us, how close were we to a situation where the Cold War could have become a very hot and possibly nuclear one at that time?
Well, thank you, Steffen, for the very kind introduction, and thank you for me being part of this. I'm thrilled to watch the series back in the day in 2016. So I might have forgotten some of the plots, drama and everything. So, I mean, if you look at the year 1983, Able Archer is just like the climax of it all. About like it's quite a dramaturgy that we see happening, actually from the NATO double track decision in late '79, and then it's a build up, it's a build up, it's a build up, and it is actually the deadline is end of '83. If by that time the Soviets would not react to NATO demands in arms reduction, Pershing II and cruise missiles would be stationed in West Germany and other places. So Able Archer happening in November, but there's a lot of like events actually happening before, which actually show us more about the drama. And a lot of what actually happened only became known over the last 10, 15 years with the declassification of files. And it was only like something like 10 years ago that we actually learned from CIA files and Pentagon files how close we were to what back in the day was called nuclear Armageddon, because the Soviets took the whole military war game so much more seriously than the Americans would have assumed. And this actually is part of several events that happened. If we look at someone who only in recent years became like quite a hero, that was Stanislav Petrov. He was a Russian Soviet air defense officer who in September saw the Soviet radar indicating a massive missile launch from the American side, and he just decided this can't be true. And he was the one who actually, in a way, prohibited like, you know, a full-blown escalation. And this is all happening in the fall of like 1983. The Soviet air defense shooting down a Korean passenger jet that was like a major catastrophe, of course. And earlier that year, SDI was introduced, so it seemed like, you know, a gradual escalation. And from the Soviet perspective, it all seemed to build up to something that might have been interpreted as like a covert attack, a massive nuclear attack. And we were lucky. And if you look at the history of the Cold War, we were lucky several of times. There were a lot of like accidents that include nuclear material, nuclear bombs and everything. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, because there are voices today that would actually tell us, well, after all, the Cold War divide, the dichotomy, the standoff, it was a time of political and military stability. But it was only at the surface, because under the surface, there was like so much going on, and we were lucky. That's safe to say.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And as an historian, might I just ask you, how well does Deutschland 83 get this atmosphere across? What was the general emotion in the German society at the moment in 83? Was there some perception that the threat was real, or that a nuclear war could happen?
Well, it's a bit difficult, because first of all, filmmakers don't want historians telling them what to do better, because we have to be clear about this is fiction and this is like historical reality. But I think Deutschland 83 does a really good job in portraying what was going on. And I could also say that, and maybe that's also a bit problematic, because I was a historical witness. I was a kid back then. But I remember all the air raid siren drills in school. You had to leave the building. It was like, oh, it was so prevalent that there was a nuclear threat going on. And I remember, and I think a lot of people remember, and you see that in oral history accounts, if the radio wasn't working for like 10 seconds, if there was radio silence, you would freak out. You would think, okay, this is it. It's starting now. So there was a prevalent feeling of it could start any moment, the end of the world. And this was also adding a lot of like weight to the peace movement, which was massive in these years. So in October, so just a few weeks before Able Archer, there was one of the most massive demonstrations in West German history in the Bonner Hofgarten around Bonn. It was like all around Bonn, it was like 500,000 people like demonstrating. So this is like also what's going on. And there was quite a degree of hysteria. And you could say like, okay, was this a climate of fear? Was it a culture of fear? And we can speak of a culture of fear, because if you listen to the soundtrack, and if you listen to a lot of the music that came out in these years, nuclear threat, the bomb, World War III was mentioned a lot of the times, and there was also quite a cinematic output if we think about TV productions like The Day After and others.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that many things came only into the public domain once the archives were opened. Today we have a great research on East Germany's Stasi and its works. Literally tons of books have been written about it. The archives are widely open, but of course there was also counter-espionage, espionage from the West. How ready, in your opinion and from your experience, are the Western agencies in sort of shedding their light on this period or other periods of interest to you as a historian?
Well, that's always problematic when we look at the history of the Cold War and the Cold War divide, because we know so much about what happened in East Germany, because the best thing that could ever happen for a historian is a failed state, a state that's not there anymore, because you have like access to all the files. Great, we love it. It's not true that this happened to Western Germany or the US or Russia or the Soviet Union. So there's a certain imbalance, but I know from researching peace movement, there were informers, agents from the Militärische Abschirmdienst, Verfassungsschutz. They had their people in the peace movement. And of course, it's really hard to access any of those files today. They're just not accessible. And I could show you the one and only letter I ever got from the CIA back in the day, when I asked them for declassification of files regarding West German militants in the 1970s. Of course, they just told me the agency can neither confirm or deny the existence of such files. It's exactly what they wrote. This is what you expect. So there will be a lot of mysteries. That doesn't mean we should start believing in conspiracy theories, but there's always been the other side. Of course, there was another side of espionage, but there wasn't really that much Western espionage happening in the GDR. We totally have to say West German intelligence services weren't as good as the Stasi, especially HVA, Aufklärung, and so on. So that's always something we have to keep in the back of our minds, that there's quite a lot that we still don't really know about, and declassification of files, it might take for a long time, because especially when it's about like agents provocateurs in the peace movement, for example. Is that something that happened? Probably.
Well, we've read about this, and I'm pretty sure you'll experience some more of those letters in your research on anti-communism. So let us now talk about Deutschland 83 a bit more closely. To me, it's all started with perhaps some personal experience Jörg had as a young man. I've read that, Jörg, when you were doing your military service with the then West German Bundeswehr, you were in a unit that was listening on the Russian troops stationed in East Germany, and then I believe at Christmas sometimes something rather special and surprising happened. Could you shed some light on that?
Yes. So basically, we were sent. There was mandatory military service at the time. It's a long time ago. It all feels very historical. But we were the lowest grade spies, because I was just doing my mandatory service, and we were learning Russian for 8 hours a day, and then we were basically put in a room and had to listen to Russian military communicate with each other, and we had to press tape every time we thought something interesting was happening, which tells you how valuable this information must have been. But at around Christmas, people would call not our names, but the names of the officers who we were working for. So we knew that the Russian side knew that they were listened to, and they also knew who was listening to them. And so from then on, I kept wondering, like, how did they get the information? Did they? It's still happening, by the way. I talked to an officer recently, and now it's different people, but it's the same story. So I thought, maybe we have a mole in our midst, and so that was basically the core, the very first core for the idea of the series.
Yeah, so was it really the event that got everything started and made you work on Deutschland 83 in the end?
It was. I thought about it in terms of a comedy or thriller, a spy story, and coming of age story. And then my wife Anna, who can't be here tonight, unfortunately, came up with the idea of telling the story from the perspective of the East German mole, and to make a series, because at the time it's hard to remember, there were no high-end series in German television, and Netflix and Sky, even Sky, and there was no Netflix, there was no Disney, there was no HBO, there was no anything other than the usual channels. And so we wanted to do something like this. So we looked for a team of people who share a similar vision for German TV series. So we found Eddie and Jonas and a few other people to to join us on this journey.
And was it your intention to well, teach some history? Because I mean, what Hannah just said is that you got things pretty right and pretty accurate.
Well, I studied history, and ultimately I think I have a bit of a teacher inside me, but I also spent enough time in this industry to learn that you will only be able to teach people something if you entertain them tremendously. And so we use entertainment as a gateway to ultimately, yes, teach people about the world, and maybe and hopefully always tell them something they didn't know. And I think that was a big discovery when we came across Able Archer. I didn't know about Able Archer when we started developing the show, and it's just, and all these misunderstandings that can lead to a war without anyone having the attention to start a war was I felt a very strong idea. That is as let's say insightful and entertaining as anything could be.
Right, so let's bring Edward Berger, the director of the first series, or most episodes of the first series at least.
He's the lead director.
The lead director of the entire program. How long did it take to make RTL, the private channel which aired Deutschland 83, come on board with such a complex and really first thing? I mean, it was the first major series project in Germany at that time.
Well, that's maybe an even better question for Jörg. Huh? He produced a show, and he had a first, I'm going to speak for you, Jörg. He had a first meeting for them, I think in November. When did we shoot this? In 2015 or 16?
Was it 14?
No,
it was 15, I think.
Can't have been 14, really? I don't know. At the end of a certain year, 2014, let's say, we shot this in August, and I think you went, and then let's say the year before in November, right, was your first meeting with RTL.
Yeah, the fall of the year before, whenever we shot the show.
So it was really short.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the reason for all of us to go with RTL, because they had a very quick, almost like a Netflix type turnaround time and decision making, which wasn't usual which is highly unusual for German television. It takes a few years to get things done. And RTL was just entrepreneurial and said, we want the show, we want to change, we want Jörg and everyone else on the crew to deliver a program that we haven't made before. And I think in that short amount of time, we couldn't have done it anywhere else.
Yeah, no, that's very, very well retold, Eddie. I think that they were basically, as I said, it was almost like the first 5 minutes of Independence Day when you saw the shadow of the UFO, i.e. the streamers, about to arrive on our planet, but they hadn't arrived yet. So RTL, which had a new head at the time, Frank Hoffmann, he personally got very excited, and he saw an opportunity to basically do something, do a Netflix show or do a HBO show before they have arrived on our territory. So there was a lot of excitement, and then everything went really fast.
Okay, Jonas, as the leading role, how did you prepare for this complex character, Martin? I mean, he's not the average kind of guy, is he?
Well, preparation time was a close time slot as well, but otherwise, other than Jörg and Edward and you, who were like time affine, I didn't dive into this year 83 that much before. So for me, it was kind of a very, very blank spot that I had to dive in and do my researches on. And Jörg and Anna, they had done a lot of researches beforehand, and I remember that a package has been sent to me. I was like, I moved to Berlin just for this production, and there was like there's books waiting on me, like about spy stuff in 83 and everything, and there was a lot of stuff going on in a short amount of time, because I had to prepare in all this haptic spy stuff of the 80s, military training, and preparation for the whole shooting, and learning my text and stuff. And the scripts were still in development, so we had a lot of exchange about where it was going as well. And then I had to do my researches on that time just to like get an impression of the surroundings that my character had to find his place in. And then Martin, I would say he's kind of an average guy, actually, because he's not like really supposed to be the youngest spy in Western Germany. It's just like, I mean, he's working as a border guard, I guess, in 83 for the GDR. And I mean, he has a little military training, but he's kind of a naive guy, actually, living with a single mom in East Germany, not expecting that to happen. And it's more because of his aunt and because of his father that he gets involved, and that he has to find his way in the spy game from one day to another. So that was kind of a gimmick for me, maybe, that I was like, okay, Martin was pushed into this role as fast as I'm pushed into my role. So that was the unique perspective that we had on this time and through that character on the time, because it was Anna always said it was like what's the English word for it? Like a gazelle staring into the light. That's Martin.
And you yourself, you were born in 1990 when the Berlin Wall had just come down. So how did it feel to step back in time for you?
Well, I learned a lot from it. I shot a lot of miniseries, actually, after Deutschland 83 as well, that took me back in time in German history, in close German history. And that is probably because I'm really interested in learning, like not only learning about a time, but like stepping into this time, getting an emotional connection through a character, because I think that's one of the values that even like a very entertaining series like Deutschland 83 might have, that you not only like look at a time, but that you have the ability to connect to a time like emotionally through the character you follow. And I think Martin has been, for me and for the viewers hopefully as well, like a very, very nice way of looking at a time, because you have this, he has a very unpainted pictures of both sides of the wall that was very, very unique, because nobody had that. And he has this, this superpower of getting up every time that he gets traumatized or in conflict or as well. I think Martin is kind of a stand-up man all the time. And I find him very sympathetic. So you dive with him into this time. And that made it really, really easy for me to find the gate, because the stories that Martin gets involved in, beside all the spy stuff, is very, very relatable for me as well. You know, the love stories and being away from the family and finding your way in situations where you're feeling uncomfortable and where you might be threatened and where you have to, you know, all of this might find a little space in my personality as well. So yeah, it's always that kind of stories that you connect to as an actor, I think.
Fascinating. I think from how you play Martin in the series, we can all see that you're kind of closely connected. So was there ever a situation when you woke up at night and had to realize, no, I'm Jonas Nye and I'm not Martin Rauch?
No, never. I've been Martin Rauch for 1.5 years now throughout 3 seasons. There's just no, because that is such an intense time of shooting one season. That is like almost half a year of not waking up and feeling like Jonas Nye. That's so, I'm at least that is the way I'm working on stuff and that I'm really connected to. So it's more the waking up after a shooting of a season. I'm like, okay, and now, and then there's such a long time passing until it gets released. And of course, we had with Deutschland 83 until the next season, and we had 86 and 89 shot. It took 3 years until the next season has been released, and we were shooting the next season. So it was always a time slot of, okay, excitement and what is coming. And you know, I think Edward Berger and all the creative parts that worked on this series, and because it was such a unique thing in Germany at that time of producing that kind of television, everyone was so involved, and I think that made it so kind of special. And I was so happy about the first season when it came out, and I was like, wow, that is so funky. That is so juicy to watch. That is so new. I was like, and so every time, these 3 years after the shooting, I've always been already excited to watch it.
Yeah, so let's speak a little bit more about that. It was already mentioned that 2015 was the start of a kind of serious hype here in Germany, at least. And Deutschland 83 was special in many respects. I mean, it was acquired by the Sundance Channel in the United States, which was a first for a German series, as far as I know, aired in German with English subtitles, but was a huge success and won critical acclaim all over the place. Was released by Sky Atlantic in the UK and is still among the most popular foreign language films of all time in British television, which tells you something, because before that, it was generally accepted rule in Germany that German formats and German programs don't travel internationally. It was always the other way around. We, in the German market, have all the big British and American productions and all the British and American talent, which might be then adapted with a German version, so to speak. But this was a first, and it traveled internationally. Did you, Jörg and Edward, in any way were able to foresee this? Was that on your cards already, or came that as a big surprise? Jörg, would you like to go first?
Did it come? I would say the amount of success we had, we were not able to foresee, because we produced it for RTL. We didn't think really to produce it for an international audience, but we were very ambitious, I would say, from the outset. So we wanted to do something that is much more like the series we watched from Scandinavia at the time, and some of the American series we watched. So the grammar of how we told the story in terms of the pacing and in terms of the genre mix, the different tonalities. I mean, there's a bit of humor. There's certainly some thriller. I mean, it's something that hadn't been made. So I think, all the stars were in the right place. And then we found, we found RTL as a partner who was willing to do an experiment. And we found Eddie, who had also proven to be a very I mean, a German director, but with a very international mindset. And I don't mean that in a. This is not about marketing. It's really about basically. How do you say, you would not adapt, but you join a certain choir of series that you love, and you don't hold back. You want to make something original. And I think Germany is a place in our industry and in many other creative industries where people don't want to be original, and they don't want to be innovative necessarily. They want to fulfill certain expectations of a certain time slot in a certain TV station, and they look to the US and they want to imitate something. And I think we wanted to be international and original, and then we were lucky and it all worked out.
Heike, as the TV critic, what was your first reaction when you saw Deutschland 83?
I wasn't as surprised as many of my colleagues. You know, in Germany in the beginning, reviews were really mixed. Some of my colleagues, they thought history and suspense, they don't match in German television. This is not, no one has ever seen a kind of Stasi superhero before. And well, we don't know what to do with this new art kind of storytelling. But I began my my profession as a critic in New York City. I lived there for 3 years, and I wrote about The Sopranos, The Wire, etc. And was used to going to the international Emmys where Germans never won. And when I saw this, I for myself thought, this is really a new and a fresh and a bold and brave kind of storytelling. And as a product, TV product, it's so, it's really a new beginning. And in our Grimme Award Jury that year, we were all convinced that it deserves a prize, which came to the outside world to a surprise again, because the Grimme Award was not known as being very much inventive or open for new ideas. Let me put it this way. Quality is quality is quality. You define the criteria and then you go on with it. Well, it's not 100% true, but it's this is the direction. And that year in 2016, we decided we had 4 prizes to give away in the fiction section. And we decided to give 3 to series and only 1 to a TV drama. And TV drama was back then, I mean, we're talking about 6 years ago. It's not like 50 years or so. So it's not that far away, historically seen. But we decided to give the prize to Deutschland 83, and the vote was everybody was sure this is really a great thing. So, and me personally as well. But I was not only a member of the jury back then, but only the president. So I had 2 votes on my side, which was really nice.
Obviously, for Deutschland 83, you didn't need them because everyone was so excited. Perhaps we can shed a little more light on the Grimme Award process and what tradition that normally means. From my recollection, it was also seen, at least you mentioned the outside world, which was a bit surprised, that the award was given to a private channel, to a commercial channel, as the Grimme Award is not reserved for, but at least in the information and in the fiction sections, it's more the public broadcasters in Germany which receive this accolade with some regularity, whereas private channels are few and far between. They fare better in the entertainment section, but for a fiction series, I'm not sure whether it was a first, but it was one of the few examples of the Grimme history.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was. The process is you have this Nominierungskommission, and they it's kind of another jury, and they recommend via a very elaborate process. They watch all the productions, and they recommend only a few to the award jury afterwards, and they decide on the prices. So deciding meaning the group watches every production in its length all together in one room. Usually, I'm speaking pre-COVID times, but hopefully we will get there soon again. And then there are a lot of discussions about every single production, and as well as we go along the way about quality as well, because it's not enough to say I like it or I don't like it. You have to have some you have to have some criteria, which I admit they change over time. They must change over time, otherwise you can you can give up on giving away prizes, because it's just then just historically interesting, but not maybe for the future, or giving impulses to in this process of reviewing and getting new productions. And then it's really it's like a circle, I would say. So we're talking about criteria on our way. We're talking about the productions themselves. We fight from time to time. Yeah, and in the end, we have to kill some darlings every year, which is a pity. So yeah, because we only have a certain number of prizes, and usually more really outstanding productions. But I have to tell you, this year in 2016, it was very clear from the beginning that this very new, for Germans, very new series will get a prize. So we were absolutely certain along the way.
Great, thank you. Edward, would you say that something like Deutschland 83 would have been possible without this, let's say, international team that you were in some respect? I mean, there's Anna, who is originally from the United States. You've got this British experience. You've worked for British television before. How much did that help in creating Deutschland 83?
So my personal international experience started after my film Jack in Deutschland 83. So I was basically a very German director in 2015 or whenever we shot it, with only German experience. But I'd worked in the States before, so I had an affinity maybe for American storytelling or Anglo-Saxon storytelling. And what became apparent to me when I first read the scripts was that it had a very different tone than from the traditional German scripts that you get sent. The traditional German scripts that you get sent have a very German sense. And this story, despite being about German history, had a very international sense from the beginning. You just read it and you said, huh, I could imagine that this would interest people abroad. and not only in Germany. Really, it jumped off the page. Yeah, you said it just had a different tone, and that very much has to do with one international person, which is Anna. Yeah, and she's just not German, and that's why it read in a different way to me, at least. I read it and I thought, this is different. This is international. And to answer Hanno Belz's point about, the historian, it also might not be all the time the most historical accurate storytelling. Yeah, it felt a little bit, watch maybe Jörg and I talked a lot about, for example, about a movie like To Catch a Thief, a Hitchcock movie. It's just slightly, it's a bit fun. It's not really about a thief. It's also about Nice and the Côte d'Azur and stealing jewels off of rich people. And it's just fun. And the same might be true for a Coen Brothers movie. It's not really, or let's say I rewatched Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid the other day. And even if they're dying, in the end, they get shot. They say, they're surrounded by an army of Bolivian policemen. And they say, oh, Jesus, I thought that bounty hunter was after us. I thought we'd be really in trouble now. Yeah. And then they run out and get shot, and still it's not sad. Somehow still it has an element of fun. And that to me was very much apparent in the script. And that is not about historical accuracy. It's about a feeling, conveying a feeling, entertaining people, as Jörg said, and really embracing the world. And to me, that was the challenge. To be honest, I wasn't keen on making a German television series. I was really, I just made an independent movie that I was very, very happy with the process. And I really wanted to make another one. And this sort of just came in from left field and threw me off, it took me off guard. I said, but what I like about it, that it feels international, and that it's not necessarily for a German audience or German critics or the Grimme Award, who luckily then doubled back and rewarded us for it. It is for America. It is for England. It is for France, for Russia. We don't care. It's for something broader. And that's what I liked about it. And that's, and luckily, people saw it that way too.
Jonas, was that something that you also felt when you were handed the script for the very first time and asked if you would like to join the project, that this was something different and more than above average?
Well, just as Edward, at that time, I've been a very, very German actor. I've shot some movies that were, one was also awarded by the Grimme Institute, I guess. This was home video. But I was like set as a very art house, dark, young, sad boy in movies. This was like this was how people saw me at that time as an actor. So most of the movies I've been that, funnily speaking, I've been the boy with the sad face with the scar, and super sentimental. And then and when I read the scripts about Deutschland 83, I was that was so different. The character of Martin was so different to everything I have read before. And I was not like, okay, this is international or something. I was just, was more, the case was actually that RTL and their series had not have quite the it was actually the case that some of the actors I worked with at that time that knew about the project, and some of the agencies, they were, when they heard that it's an RTL series, they were like immediately, no, we're not doing it. They didn't even read the scripts. I had contact to one of the actors at that time, and he was like, no, I'm not doing it, because German TV series were just not, they were not popular, and as well, they were not, RTL was more like they they were doing, and they are still doing, reality TV. Like this is their most, like this is their popular spot. And when I read the scripts, I was like, no, I don't care if it's RTL and something. I really don't care, because I want to play this part. It's so different, because it's so entertaining, you know. And I really wanted to do it. And I know from and then I got the info that Edward Berger would direct it, and I was at one casting. I think it was like 4 casting rounds for me or something, but I've been to one casting, and Eddie and me, we were, you know, he was sitting there. I will always remember that, because Eddie was like, he had this boyish smile on his face, you know. Eddie is always like, now he's looking like Dracula, but Eddie has always this boyish smile on his face, you know. He's always up to something unusual. And I was the casting process already, and with Edward, and one meeting with Jörg and Anna, I will never forget that, also in Berlin, looking in a restaurant, looking over the city, was so different to everything that I have expected before, and everything that I have experienced before, that I was just like, okay, that's gonna be my signature thing. I want to play this one. This is gonna be my signature part. I want that so badly. I want to play it, and there's so much fun in this part and in the scenes, and nobody would have seen me in that part before. Only Anna. She said, okay, I had your picture on the wall. I don't know if that story is true. Jörg will never tell me if it's true. But she told me that she had my picture on the wall while writing, and she saw that guy at me. And I was like, yeah, that is so much closer to me personally. Like how I am. This is so much closer to this than the sad boy in the art house movie, even though I like playing that. But Martin was like, that was already a part of me while reading the script. So.
May I say something?
Of course.
Or Jonas?
Mm-hmm.
I think there are 2 misconceptions in German television, really, in the industry, maybe, but also, if you just talk to people and so on. The first one is private channels, they only do shallow stuff, which is not true. I mean, they also do reality TV, but reality TV is changing nowadays. Also, at least some productions. And the other one is that entertainment and fun is also shallow per definition. So if you have a fun series or you have a fun program, it's just for uneducated people, or something like this. And you don't have this misconception outside of Germany, not like it in Germany. I can imagine where it comes from, that from the öffentlich-rechtlich Programmauftrag, etc., you always have to think education together with fiction, with entertainment, and so on. So this is how people are raised when it comes to TV in Germany. But the whole thing changed with players like Netflix, etc. And you were the first really to show it, that an RTL series, which is highly entertaining, which is fun, which is also, which tells a lot about history, about contemporary history. It really does. It's like a fresh start for German television, and this is what will stay.
But
and
still,
I think really, you did altogether a great job. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt. I was just adding to that. Sorry, harsh. Yeah, it was harsh. Yeah. What do you mean?
No,
What was
thank you
harsh?
very much, I wanted to say.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add that that one more thing was not only that it was unusual for RTL to do some production like this, but also it's on the table. I mean, with RTL, this series was not really successful in German TV. We have to add that the RTL public that was watching at that time, we were in concurrence to Alarm for Cobra 11, which is like an action, which was an action series at that time from RTL, and they put it on the same slot. And I received a lot of comments online. Facebook was still a thing. Facebook comments that was saying like, "Where are the explosions, man? Where are the guns? So late." and this series became a big success abroad, but it was not such a big success on RTL. That's obviously why we landed with Amazon Prime. And so there's a little truth to it that that the audience of RTL was not only not used to it, to watching that stuff, but also really, really critical about this series. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, that is something. Thank you, Jonas, because that is something I wanted to mention now with my next question, because I think it was Edward who said that RTL was very entrepreneurial about it, but however, it didn't pay them off all too well. So what's your opinion then, Edward and Jörg? Why did it not work so well on the RTL main channel, where it aired first in Germany?
Should I start, Jörg?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you have a much. I keep it very brief. You probably have a much better perspective on it. But as Jonas said, you know, in my view, German, not only filmmakers but also audiences are quite conservative. They're used to, you know, I mean, just the time that it took Netflix to arrive here, and really, you know, people are always skeptical of something new. They're not really adventurous in a way. They're used to Cobra 11 on a certain time slot, and that's what they want to see. And it's not just the general audience, it's also us, the filmmakers. And I think it's very much time to overcome those hurdles, to overcome the skepticism about Amazon or Netflix or streamers or RTL at the time, where you said, oh, they only play Cobra 11, we can't work for them. You know, we can't, you know, this is not the right place to make a proper series or movie. And because, you know, you can do great stuff any way you want. You find great people in any place you go. You just have to make sure that you speak the same language about it. And I think that, but that's basically the same thing. I would say it's due to conservatism in the expectation.
And Jörg,
Yeah.
you answered that question. Could I just chip in another one? Would you think now, 6 years from Deutschland 83 being not such a great success on RTL, times have changed and things would work out differently today?
Well, you know, I think we have something that's known in Germany as the Gleichzeitigkeit des Ungleichzeitigen. I think we have this new era of TV, and at the same time, the old era just lives on, and they live on, you know, on parallel trajectories. So you have, you know, people still watch Tatort on Sundays, and for some people in the creative industry and in the public, Tatort is the, you know, the peak and the best thing on offer in German television. And other people.
May I just very briefly for our non-German audience explain that Cobra 11, the action series mentioned by Jörg and Edward, that's a police series revolving about the motorway police in Germany, very action driven. And Tatort, of course, is a crime drama slot on Sunday evening, very, very popular, 90-minute single story drama, which has been around for the past 40 years now, and is regarded by many people as, let's say, the biggest thing on German television.
So I think we have now a multitude and different dimensions of what's happening in Germany. But I think we're all very lucky. Everybody in this industry is very lucky that they're all American streamers have arrived, because they have enriched the landscape enormously, not just in terms of the way there's the budgets. There's bigger budgets now in Germany. There is the creative approach. There's all kinds of genres that were thought impossible in Germany only 6 years ago that are now thriving. If you look at many series like Dark, or what Eddie has done now most recently in All Quiet on the Western Front, there's definitely this is the best time we ever had, and it's so innovative, and it's brought in by Americans, the innovative thinking, and Germans like to follow through, and once they maybe get permission to do something, they go all the 9 yards. So I think there is still this German core of safety, and you see it every time you turn on the television. But at the same time, a lot of exciting things are happening, and adventures have arrived on the German shores. So I think RTL itself has become a streaming service, and has added a little plus behind RTL. So now, a bit. I'm not going to say too much about this, but I think everybody has understood what the advantages are of being a forward-looking, innovative company, and there's a lot of players now.
Thank you, Jörg. And Deutschland 83 was not only a time changer with regards to the content of the show itself, but also with regards to how it was made. To my knowledge, was one of the first big productions where really had a showrunner, a concept, had a writer's room. Jörg, could you tell us a little bit more what was new and different at that time in the German market?
Well, we tried to, I started doing this already at Soko Leipzig, where we tried to bring more collaborative work into the writing process, because that's can be incredibly helpful, especially if you don't have a lot of time to bring in a team of people with different perspectives on the same issue, and to have lively debates in the writers' room, and to bring in a lot of ideas, and also to be able to choose ideas and to sort out ideas at a very early stage. So I believe, the writers' room is something that we did this, and we were, I guess, some of the first people in Germany to do this. And we also think that series are mainly driven by writers who are there for the entire value chain, but also we didn't copy the American concept. So, for example, Eddie was just as crucial to the outcome of the series as the showrunner was, because we wanted basically to combine the writer-driven model with the more traditional European auteur concept, where we have a strong director who's also setting the tone of the series. So, and since if you're on the same wavelength, which we were, about Deutschland, something incredibly beautiful can be the result.
Jonas, for you as an actor in the series, but was that also something you felt, you experienced while shooting, that there was something new going on also in the not only content wise, but also in the entire making of the series?
Well, especially with the first season, it's been different to everything I've shot before. Just imagine that Eddie Berger was always in Edward was always in a funny concurrence to his DOP Philipp Haberland, because Eddie Berger desperately wanted to have a second cameraman, and he didn't get one, but he did get a second camera. So yeah, like one of the camera assistants as his help, and then Eddie was always like, when we shot a scene and he wanted to have a second shot from somewhere else, he was like directing and using his second camera as well at the same time. And one of the practicants from the camera was shaking your hands, had to pull the focus. And Eddie was always from one edge of the room, was like, you know that my picture's better, right, Philip? You know it, right? You feel it, yeah, that's better. This was like, and this was kind of the, if you just imagine that as you know, like the general spirit of the series, there was also, it was such a relief, because it was such a team play in the best way, because it was not so institutional, you know. Yeah, like everybody wanted to make the best out of it, but everybody was really unexperienced at the same time and doing like high serial drama. We were used to do something else, and it was like
it should be pointed out. Sorry to interrupt, but it should be pointed out that this is also partially, I mean, the enthusiasm was there for everybody, as Jonas is saying, but also in terms of budget. You know, if we told people for how little money we made this show, you know, I mean, I still wish we would have a price tag that is, you're just sitting there underneath. And so that was required everybody to go, you know, 24/7. And it was incredibly hard also. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just had to.
No.
You can spill the beans now if you like, Jörg, and tell us what's on the price tag.
I would have to adjust it for inflation, which is becoming increasingly hard.
Okay, I see. Okay.
But that was like, I think that it was really, really special, and the whole vibe of the production making, that it was like really, really rock and roll in a way. The scripts were like super beautiful, and I don't know if you had, Jörg, if you tell me that you only had half a year. I just read the first 2 scripts before the casting process. You had a big rush in writing 8 scripts as well, and this was the case for all the 3 seasons as well, that the scripts still were in development throughout the shooting, and that this gave a certain vibe to the production as well, because everybody had been included in this process in a way, because everybody was already shooting or in preparation, and everybody had to be like very, very flexible, you know. And this is so not German until this moment, and that was so Deutschland for me, you know, like the series, the vibe of the series was always, okay, come on, free your mindset. So we have this location. We only have 1 camera, but we want to make the best out of it. And the scene is like, okay, where do we go? And it was always, you know, you had to be like 100% on. And I love that so much, because of course you have like a bigger influence in what you're doing, everybody, but as well you can't point to another, you know, you have to, you can't say, oh, I should do this. This was not the vibe. It was okay. So you're the first you ever pulled the focus? No? Okay, try it now. This was more the thing, and I loved it. I already miss it so much. Yeah.
So Heike, as a TV critic, do you also see that Deutschland 83 has well, breathed some fresh air into the German television market and how German television is done? Have things changed now over the past 6 years for the better?
Well, this is a very difficult question. It was a starting point, absolutely. And we've seen other shows which were for them it was easier to be well received, because Deutschland 83 broke the ground, I would say. And the television in Germany is changing at the time, I would say a lot, but not everything. It's we have better, I would say, put it in a quality frame, and better television, meaning more in regard to fiction, more entertaining, more fun, more liberated. Also, we see some kind of mystery shows or science fiction even, which was unknown for German television before. So it broke the ground in more than one perspective, I would say. But on the other hand, we have a lot more restrictions, maybe in the future for at least öffentlich-rechtliches Fernsehen when it comes to fiction. It always has to be connected to public value and show public value, and has this kind of educational enrichment at least. So we have those two aspects at the same time, which don't seem to match, but they do, because you have this kind of outstanding productions which are getting better and better, and on the other hand, a lot of not so outstanding productions, I would say. So the future is open, really, and it doesn't hold a lot of money in it also.
Money is always one of the trickier issues, but Deutschland 83, I would say, has bridged this gap, at least from my personal perspective, between a very exciting, almost thriller-like, fast-paced series with a very high educational and public value, so to speak, because it really teaches, as Hanno mentioned earlier on,
yes,
quite some.
Absolutely. Let me just mention this. It bridges the gap, really. You cannot say on the one hand, this is fun and fast-paced and so on, and but it also has this public value. This is the charming thing also about Deutschland 83, because you can see in all kinds of perspective that it's breaking new ground. It's just another way of storytelling it was and still is, for German television. And it holds this educational aspect as well, but it's not overwhelming. It's not dominating in a way which personally I don't want to see any longer.
Because it is fun. And that is why it received the Grimme Award among others. So for the remainder of our panel, I'd like to leave Deutschland 83 now and go to the awards in a little more detail. Heike, thank you for explaining to us earlier on how the Grimme process works. Edward, as one of the few people who's the pleasure of having both Grimme Awards and the BAFTA in your cupboard. How would you explain the difference? Are these two awards comparable, or are they entirely separate?
Well, the BAFTA, I would say, compares more to, it's an Academy Award, right? The BAFTA is an academy of members, where you have to be a member to be able to vote. And Grimme, as Heike was so kind to tell us, to explain, is a jury. And it's a jury of, I assume, it's mostly film critics, right?
Yeah, it's film critics and also people from university and Volkshochschule and so on. So it's not all film critics, but what's really important is that they're really all independent. They don't play a role in the industry. And and they really have to go through this process all together. So it's not like you come there to Mal, where the Grimme Institute lives, and say, okay, I have my favorite, let's do it, I give you this, and yeah, and then my darling wins. So, but it's a process of fighting and debating and so on, and which for me is highly entertaining as well. But the point is that we're all independent film critics, and also university professors and so on, and also students. So it's really a mixture. We're coming from very different business backgrounds.
So the big difference is it's a jury compared to a jury of academics, right? Who have certain standards also, I would say, with what they watch, as does the public. And in England, I guess it's just an academy, that votes for, I don't know how many members, probably several thousand, and it's comparable to the Emmys, or so that's the big difference, I would say.
And how does such an award change, perhaps not your lives, but whatever comes after that? I mean, Jörg, has the Grimme Award for Deutschland 83 helped you, in your opinion, with further projects, or was that just something which would have gone on anyway, be it the Grimme Award or not?
No, I think the Grimme Award still is a real currency, especially in Germany. And it gets a lot of attention from a lot of people, and also from all the decision makers in the industry. So I think it's definitely an important award that I wouldn't want to miss. And it is interesting how perception changes after an award. It's as Heike was saying earlier, it's a bit, I'm not saying we don't deserve to win the Grimme Award and all the others, but there's also others who don't get it, and then the trajectory might be slightly different. So I think it's great, and it's a bit of luck, and I'm very aware of the effect. It's a little bit like what happened to Deutschland also, which we didn't talk about, which is also pointing to the lack of German confidence in a way. Is that I think because the show was bought in the US, and because the New York Times wrote about it so positively, that a lot of Germans went like, oh my God, I guess I better watch it, or I better watch out, because if Americans like it, it must be something great. So it's this, it's the awards and the attention by, the newspaper of record that gets you onto a different trajectory. That's just how the world works.
Does that also ring true for the acting side, Jonas? What was the reaction there after the award?
Well, I feel that the Grimme Award was a real game changer for the series. I disagree a little with Jörg, because I feel that in my reception, all the wonderful words that came out of America also had a turnaround effect, that the Germans were like, oh no, okay, everybody's writing about it, Sundance bought it, everybody's already like, this is the hot shit, I don't believe it, and they didn't watch it. This is just because this is but who knows, but this is my perception, and I find that with the Grimme Award given to this series that was made for a private channel, and that nobody expected, nobody that didn't see it expected it to be like of big quality and value. I feel that the Grimme Award was getting an awareness with people from the feuilleton maybe, or like people that are used to write about öffentlich-rechtlich stuff, what is the word for it? Often öffentlich-rechtlich, I don't know.
Public TV, public broadcasters.
Public TV, thank you very much. And about maybe the well-known German art house cinema, maybe movies. They were listening. I find that after that, I get a lot of interview requests from media that weren't writing about it beforehand. I feel that the Grimme Award has like, if the Grimme Award is given to something to a production in Germany, a lot of people think that it's of big value in a way. And I think that is actually true. And that was a changer for this series, I think, for the German market.
So, Edward, in your opinion, then, what's, if you can say that directly in this way, is there any difference? Which award is more important, a BAFTA or a Grimme Award?
That is such a mean question. Mr. Balz is raising his hand. I think he wants to speak. No, I can answer quickly. They're all great. You know, it's all a great honor to get them. In the end, you don't do it for awards, of course, and that's what you say, and then you're very happy to get them because it's really hard work, and it's wonderful to see when others see the value in what you've done, and if it gets recognition, and if you do something that nobody sees or nobody recognizes or everybody hates, then it probably then there are probably more exciting things to do with your life than movie making. So I'm very grateful to all the juries or academies. If you get an award, it's of course fantastic to get. It's of course wonderful, and it helps you further down the line to get you know, to get bigger budgets, to get more creative freedom. People trust you with they think, oh, he or she must have fairly okay judgment. Let's just put it in their hands. And so it just helps. It mainly helps for the career further down the line.
Heike just mentioned when she spoke about the work of the jury at the Grimme Awards that they are always changing, that there is much debate going on about criteria of success these days. So from the perspective of the filmmakers, Jörg, Eddie, and Jonas, how do you relate to this? Is there anything perhaps missing where you say, yeah, but we have a feeling that this and this is happening already, and these juries or perhaps the academy members don't get it yet, and should really be more up on their feet and more innovative? Because I mean, this is juries will always tell you at Grimme, well, German television has to be a little more innovative. Now it would be your chance to tell them back to be a bit more innovative themselves.
I mean, I've had really good experiences with the juries, like twice. So I feel like the juries, and there's two juries, as Heike mentioned, first the nomination jury and then the final jury, they find things. I think I never felt like we had to show something that the jury would have missed. So I feel like they're pretty good at finding interesting new voices. And I think I don't see the Grimme jury as a place where, a very conservative place. It seems also, I guess it helps that the jury keeps changing all the time. And so I think they have made very good decisions over the last few years.
Well, so let's hope that this will continue and that all these wonderful shows and series will get the recognition they deserve. To wrap up a little bit, I'd just like to thank you all, of course, for participating in this panel. I think what we have learned and what we can say is that Deutschland 83 really was a game changer, at least in the German market, because for the very first time, it presented new and innovative film making, series development, and everything else. And it's a marvelous example, I would say, to have the marvelous example how one single project can really change so much in a television market, because as Jörg, Eddie, and Jonas told us, not all German programs are now like Deutschland 83, but we are seeing more and more. Dark was mentioned, the first Netflix production for the German market, which traveled very, very well internationally. And so, yeah, it was really a kind of breath of fresh air that you all gave to the German market. So thank you very much for that. And with our little discussion about BAFTA and the Grimme Award, I'm very happy to announce that this panel and this discussion today was, let's say, a prequel to something Ingrid already mentioned in her introduction, which is going to happen, hopefully, COVID permitting, one has to say, in these strange times, next year in the flesh in Cambridge, where we are going to discuss in much greater detail and in much more depth than we could do it today with our online discussion, criteria, development, backgrounds of European television prizes, of the Grimme Award, of the BAFTA, and I'm very, very excited that this project is going on, and I'm very much looking forward to the outcome of this. And I would like to mention the fantastic team at the Grimme Institute who prepare this award and are responsible for selecting these excellent juries and this very, very elaborate process. I think it is fair to say that the Grimme Award is perhaps the most elaborate way of coming to an award solution, to an award decision. As was mentioned, there is a pre-jury, there's a final jury, they meet very, very often, they watch everything together, discuss it. The idea is to create something like a family sitting in the living room, watching a program all together and discussing it, which is, I think, the utmost form of television. However, we see that with the arrival of streamers like Netflix and the big studios on the European and especially the German market, we see changes there. But from my perspective, and that was agreed by the panel, changes for the better. There's so much more possible now in the German market that was not the norm, at least, to say it mildly, 5 or 10 years ago. So I think we are living in very exciting times. I think Jörg said it's never been so good. Budgets are tight, they've always been tight, but the creativity is there and hopefully will stay with us for a very, very long time. So once again, to our wonderful panelists, thank you for joining. Thank you, Hanno, for your historical insight, Ingrid for hosting this and being part of this wonderful project. And all which remains for me to say is thank you also, of course, to our online audience, and wishing you a very, very happy Christmas and a festive period until then. And of course, I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in the flesh in Cambridge next year. Thank you.